Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Incan Gold. Many of you recommended this game to me when I talked about how I love games where I found that I've loved push your luck games that have a run in, run out element, like Clank and Deep Sea Adventure, where you are deciding how far into a dungeon or an ocean that you want to go to get the best stuff, but still get out. And many of you mentioned Incan Gold. Which is essentially that game in a nice, tidy little 30-minute package. And I played it a couple times now, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It definitely is up my alley in terms of race in, race out mechanisms. The idea is you are competing with other players to race into a kind of a dungeon, a cave, a treasure tomb, to grab some treasure. You're dividing up the treasure as you go, and then hopefully get out with that treasure. There are three things I want to mention real quick because they're really cool. One is as you discover gems. So say there are three of us playing, and we draw a gem card that says 4 gems. We divide that as equally as possible. So we each take 1 gem, and then any leftovers go on the card itself. And at any time when I decide, instead of going deeper into the dungeon, we'll call it dungeon, when I decide to not go any deeper and instead run out, I get to take all the gems that we've left along the way. It's not like we've left them along this path and I get to gather them along the way. So I like that throughout each round in the game, and depending on the player count, you might accumulate quite a few gems along the way, and you are hoping to be the only player to race out, because if you are the only player to do that, you get all the gems. Whereas if there are other players too, you have to split those gems with other players. Just found that I have something on my shoulder there. I don't know what it is. So that's the first thing. I love that how that adds a certain element of tension to the game of when you decide to run out. The other element of tension there, actually there are 2 others. All these are elements of tension. One of the other ones is that you have these treasure cards. These are in, I believe, the most recent edition of the game. And you add one of these treasures each time you go into the dungeon, and you may or may not see it. You don't know. And so there might be, by the last round, you might have a couple of these treasure cards in the deck. When you run out of the dungeon, if you are the only player to run out, you get to take this treasure card, and this one's worth 12 points at the end of the game. I believe this is the most valuable one. But if you're not the only player to do it, no one takes the treasure cards. So this adds another element of tension. Do I run out now? Do I wait? Do I even negotiate with other players? Do I say, okay, guys, I'm definitely running out. If you run out right now with me, no one's getting this card. That shows your hand a little bit, but it might also discourage other players from doing it. So I like how the game encourages a little bit of interaction in that way between players. The last thing the game does, so sometimes with these types of push your luck games, you're operating with not quite enough agency. And that's part of the fun. Like, you don't know when bad things are going to happen. You don't know what treasure is going to show up. That's part of the fun. But you need a little bit of information. You need just enough. And I think games like Dead Man's Draw do this really well, as do Deep Sea Adventure does it pretty well. Clank does it really well. But in this game, the lose scenario for each round when you're going into the dungeon is if you see these hazard cards, if these hazard cards come up. And so say we're going in the dungeon, we all decide to stay, and this snake pops up. That's bad, but it's actually not a huge deal right then. It means that we can all continue to progress throughout the cave. We don't lose our gems. Say next, this creepy child pops up. We're okay. We're not happy to see the creepy child, but we get to keep going down the cave. But as these cards accumulate, we get a little bit more worried, because the lose condition for that round is if a second card of the same type shows up. So first snake, not a problem. Second snake is a big problem. And so I really, really like how you can kind of see the bad thing coming, although you don't know exactly when it's going to come. And as you accumulate more types of bad cards, you know that your odds are greater that the same card will be duplicated later down as you continue to further explore the dungeon. So I really, really like that element. I like that it gives you some information, but not too much information, so that you can kind of gauge your risk-reward strategy as you delve deeper or decide to run out. So those three things add a really nice amount of tension and nice, very public information. You know when the treasure card's out there. You know which leftover gems are along the path. You know which hazards have already come up. And so I really like this game. Gives you plenty of information to make the smart, interesting decisions that you need to in a game like this. So yeah, that's Incan Gold. Lots of cool stuff happening in this little game. And it further piques my interest for other race in, race out games. If you have any other suggestions there, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. And if you have any other push your luck games that give you just the right amount of information, I'd love to hear about them in the comments as well. Thanks.